Okay, I'm not going to be doing every example, but I will pause and on the slide that you should pause and practice with after I do a couple of examples. So this is going to put a little bit of responsibility on you, but I believe in you. So today's Wednesday, and we're going to start by finding the slope of this line. And so what we would want to do with that is find a rise over run. And so I'm going to start with my point here, and I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to run 1, 2. So my rise was 3, my run was 2, and what I need to recognize is that this is an overall negative line, and so when I write my answer, I'm going to leave it as an improper fraction, and I'm going to see that it can't be simplified anymore. I don't want to write it as 1 1/2. I don't want to write it as 1.5. I want to leave it in the simplest form of a fraction. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide to the next one. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm not going to work it, but I'm going to ask you to do that. Okay. So make sure to rise over run. All right, pause. Okay, on this one, we do not have any pretty points. So if they're not given to you, what you're going to have to do is identify them yourself. And so a pretty point is where a dot is located on the graph, but does not contain any. If you notice where I am finding these, it's right at an intersection of those two lines, or you could think of it as a coordinate pair on the graph that has no decimals or fractions. It's just straight integers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find my rise over run. So, and I can start with either of these, and I'm going to show you both why. So if I start down here and I rise 1, 2, 3, 4. So if my rise is 4 and my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that was my run. Obviously that can be simplified to a smaller number. 4 over 6 can be simplified, right? And it's a negative 4 over 6. But we also recognize if you use your other pretty points, so if I start down here again and I rise 1, 2, so if I rise 2 and I run 1, 2, 3, okay, so what we need to recognize here is that, I wrote a 2, the 3, recognize here is that this is just the simplified version of the first. So you don't have to use, it doesn't matter which pretty points you use as long as you simplify your last or your ending fraction. Okay, I'm going to pause on the next one and ask you to find it. So pause and do it yourself. Okay. So pause, first find the pretty points. I'll start by finding one for you. This one's a little tricky, so that one's there. Find the other one or two. All right. Okay, so now say that they don't give you a coordinate pair, or say they don't give you a line, all they do is give you coordinate pairs. So what we can do is take our coordinate pairs and graph them on our table, or on our graph. So what I'm going to do is take my negative 3, 0, so I have 1, 2, 3, so here's my negative 3, 0, and then I have 2, 4, 1, 2 on the x, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y. So now I have two pretty points, and these essentially are making a line, right? There we go. It's a little off, but you see what I'm talking about. And so now what I'm going to do is I can now find my rise. Now I'm going to start here. I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4. My rise is 4, and my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My run is and it is always rise over run, and this overall is a positive line, and 4 over 5 cannot be simplified to s easier fraction, so we're going to leave it at 4 over 5. Okay? So there's your example. Let's do one more. Okay, so here we have -8, -6. So what I'm going to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to put my pen and put my mark there. And then my 0, 1, I'm going over 0 and up 1. So my coordinate pair is going to be here. And now I'm going to find now I have created a line here, and now I'm just going to keep it pink. But we have here, so now we're going to look at my rise. So we're going to rise from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My rise is 7, and my run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My run is going to be 8. This is a positive line, and 7 over 8 cannot be simplified to a more simple fraction, so we're going to leave it at 7 over 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll to the next one. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try and use the same method and do that. So pause, do this one. I'm going to scroll to the next. Pause, do this one. All right, so now we have these numbers that are way larger. So we have a 24, and my thing only goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So my graph only goes to 15. So you might think, okay, we could decrease our interval, and we could do that, but that's kind of complicated. And so what I would like to introduce is something called the slope formula. Okay, so what do we do if our numbers are too large to graph? We look here. Okay, so I'm going to look at the slope of a line. This formula here located, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you notice, in all of our pretty points, we have had 2 coordinate pairs given to us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these here. 24, 0. Okay, let's see. 24, 0. And the other one was 28, 16. So we have an x, y, and an x, y. So essentially we have 2 coordinate pairs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first coordinate pair. So if this is my first coordinate pair, I'm going to assign a 1 to each of these. So that's going to be my x1 and my y1. And then this is my second coordinate pair, and I'm going to do x2 and y2. So now, with these points, what I can do is now just substitute these numbers into my formula. So I have my formula here. So I'm going to draw my line, and then I'm going to take my y2. So I'm going to just show you exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to just, with my little tool, so obviously you won't be able to do this, but I'm going to take my y2, and I'm going to place it here. And then I'm going to take my y1, which is right here. Oh, it's going to take it with it, sorry. y2, and then we're subtracting y1. So I'm going to just go ahead and put that subtraction sign in there. And then I'm going to take my x2, maybe be more careful this time. x2 is here, and my x1 is here. So what I just did there is I took my first and second coordinate pairs, and now from there, what you can do is just put it right in your calculator, or in this case, you probably don't even need to. So what we're going to do is just simplify our fraction. So 16 minus 0 is 16. And then 28 minus 24 is just 4. So now we have 16 over 4, and it's positive, but now we need to simplify. So now we need to simplify. So simplify. 16 over 4 is just 4. So that, my friends, is going to be, this is going to be my m, is 16 over 4, which was just 4. Okay? All right. Going to scroll. So now I'm going to do a practice one here. So again, I am going to so I have my first and my second, so I'm just going to go ahead and label x, y, x, y. And I will point out, it doesn't matter if I say this one is y2 or this one is y2, as long as the coordinate pairs in the same pair have the 1s and the 2s. So the 1s, I just think it's easiest to just assign them in order left to right. 1's first one, 2's second one. So now I'm going to write m equals, and I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to go ahead and put my subtraction sign in there to begin with, okay? So then I'm going to look, and I'm going to say, okay, it's y2. My y2 is a positive 14. I'm going to put my 14 right here. So we got that one done. I'm going to mark it off. And then I'm going to get my y1, which says it's 16. So there we go. I'm going to mark it off just to kind of keep myself straight. So now I'm going to take x2, which is positive 2, x2, and then I have x1 being a negative 35. So this is very important that we include the negative. Even though that subtraction sign's already there, I'm going to just use parentheses to separate the minus and the subtraction. So this is when you would want to possibly pull out your calculator, or you can still do it in your head. So we are going to simplify now. So 14 minus 16. So again, you can use your calculator, you can do it in your head. So 14 minus 16, this is going to be a negative 2, okay? And then we're going to do 2 minus a negative 35. So you know that a minus a negative is going to give you a positive. Remember, those cancel out, but if you put it in the calculator, you will still get a positive 37. Okay, so this is kind of a weird slope that we see here, but it's possible. We already have our negative. This cannot be simplified anymore, so that is your slope. Okay, oh, I forgot to mark that one off. All right, so I'm going to scroll up. Okay, so I'm going to set this one up for you. So again, remember we have x, y, x, y, and I'm just going to assign them their 1s and 2s in order. So this is going to be my x1, my y1, x2, y2. And what I'm going to do here is say m equals, I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to include everything that I already can from my thing. So I'm going to write the m equals, I'm going to include my line and my 2 subtraction signs just because those negatives get in there and kind of make it tricky. So y2 is 4. I'm going to cross them out again as I go. And then y1 is a negative 15, so make sure to include that negative there. Okay, then we get x2, which is negative 13. And then x1 is a negative 3. I'm going to use parentheses just to keep them separated. Okay, so this is where I want you to, or maybe I'll just go ahead and do this one as well. Okay, so we're going to go 4 minus negative 15. So that gives me a 19, a positive 19, because remember minus a negative. So, and then we have a negative 13 minus a negative 3. So these are all very important to include. So now we have a negative 10. So this overall cannot be simplified anymore, and so we leave our fraction as 19 over negative 10. And that is going to be the answer there. And I'm going to scroll to the next one. So pause, work this one. Pause, work this one. Pause, work this one. These are all just practice examples. And the last thing I need you to do is we are going to be doing a writing prompt today. So what I would like you to do is get a sheet of paper, and if you could write a full page on lined paper. And I need you to make sure to include everything that you see here. Include everything that you see on the screen. If you have questions, send me an email.